Okay, Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom. Deeper into Jungian psychology. The final lecture explaining the basics of Jungian psychology, the central theme of the Persona series. Yeah.
Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom.
Hello there everyone, it's time for Mr. Edogawa's TV classroom. Everyone loves Jungian psychology, an invitation to the youth that you don't know. A final lesson, a grand final, deeper into Jungian psychology. Is this ever going to end? It's hard to say, isn't it? Now then, let's begin the lecture. Ventlar space cadets. What? Jungian psychology once more. Looking back, the unconscious, the collective unconscious, the shadow and persona archetypes, complexes, personality types and dream interpretation. I've managed to introduce the main points of Jungian psychology to you. If you're a high school student, it might have been a bit hard for you, but you did well to come this far. So I think we can ease off on the lectures. Some of you might want to go even further, get promoted, molt. For those, I'll be glad to show you the next step. So today we'll talk about the power that helped Jung formulate his superhuman-like theories, his interest in the mystical, what you would call the occult, bloodline of mediums. From start to finish, his life had always been influenced by occult-like things. That was his fate, it was in his DNA. He was born in the Switzerland countryside to a family that was close to spirits. To be more specific, his father was a pastor and his mother was from bloodline that can sense spirits. I think it's safe to say that his environment helped him foster an interest in religion and the spiritual. In fact, he did experience something psychologically important. For instance, when he was 3 or 4 years old, quite young, he had a dream he was able to forget. He was unable to forget, that's it. It was a terrifying dream. In a throne room past an underground tunnel, he saw a giant pillar of flesh known as the Man-Eater. That dream may have been the starting point for his passion towards dream interpretation. On top of that, Jung took notice of another personality within himself at an early age. This other personality was an old, dignified man who compensated for his feelings of inferiority as a boy. This sounds a lot like one of the archetypes he later proposed, wise old man, doesn't it? Psychic phenomena. It can't be said for sure that Jung's blood and upbringing caused this, but throughout his life he had multiple experiences with poltergeist phenomena. Some cases include his family oak table splitting in two and a steel bread knife shattering. Jung was also interested in the paranormal from a young age. He participated in a gathering to summon the spirits of the dead held by a cousin who was a medium. It really shows how interested Jung was about the occult, studying the occult. When Jung began walking the path of psychiatry, he realized the things that occurred at that summoning. While Jung thought there was psychological meaning, Boyd warned against getting too deep into the occult. One of the factors in deterioration of their relationship was this difference in viewpoints regarding the occult. well, they did also disagree on some theories on psychoanalysis and had some personal incidents, but around the time Jung parted ways with Freud, he had a certain health problem. He himself became mentally ill. Yikes. A period of mental illness. His mind had become so ill he would see visions and delusions. Even as he suffered from illness, he drew upon his experience as a psychiatrist and turned it into a subject of study. So what kind of visions did he see? Let me introduce one of them. There was a time when he saw visions of Europe ending with a giant flood. A few months later, the First World War broke out. His vision became a reality. It seems like a prophetic dream, doesn't it? Jung interpreted this occurrence as the result of the unconscious sensing the oncoming danger of the war. During this time, he also came across ghosts. According to him, after a group of ghosts burst into his house, he then spent 3 days writing an essay. In a sense, he acknowledged the existence of ghosts, but he saw those ghosts as projections of his unconscious. A psychiatrist's bizarre experience. Treating people as a psychiatrist, sometimes he came into experiences that surpassed rational thought. Jung was interested in things like that as well. I'll relate a well-known anecdote about Jung as an example. This happened when he was talking with a female patient, interpreting her dreams. She was talking about a golden scarab in her dream, and at that moment an actual beetle flew into the room. When this occurred, her mind was altered, and so was the treatment. Jung took notice of this mechanism of coincidence. This meaningful coincidence leads to synchronicity and constellation. Jung intertwined these with archetypes and theorized about the well. We're skipping that. Maybe some other time. Jung, eastward. Jung was also interested in Eastern religion and ideology, which was a rare study at the time. Hindu philosophy, Zen ideology, Chinese fortune-telling, alchemy. His inspirations came from everywhere. Take the mandala, for example. That's a type of art in the Buddhist and Hindu religions, usually with many gods of Buddhas drawn on them. He realized that there was a similarity between the structure of that art and the treatment he underwent during his illness. Jung knew from experience that you can see the state of the mind through painting a circle. He found a common point between drawing a circle and mandalas. It seems he tried expanding his knowledge of relations that science couldn't explain by reading I Ching, a Chinese system. Jung's ideas of synchronicity and meaningful coincidences were influenced by the I Ching. Alchemy's effect. Alchemy's effect on Jungian psychology. Now then, when talking about Jung's achievements and the occult, you can't not mention alchemy. Alchemy is a magical technology that people dreamed of long ago. famously to turn lead into gold. Jung interpreted the principle of the process as a representation of individuation. The influence of alchemy on Jung is obvious, as he has left several works of alchemy. He really took interest in the alchemic concept of union of opposites, things of opposite properties eventually becoming one complete object. That idea became one of Jungian psychology's roots. Going this far, you almost feel that all this talk of his occult study is rather mild. Jung and the UFO. Okay, we've got a diagram here. Yikes. Yikes. UFOs. Writing alchemy, the psychological types, archetypes, complexes, with unconscious, synchronicity, constellation. Oof. Jung built up his original knowledge not only through psychiatric study, but by digging deep into the occult. He sure had a lot of energy. Not only did he take on ancient things like mythology, but he even integrated new mysteries into his studies. Modern mysteries such as UFOs. Their very existence is doubtful, but Jung tried to explain the existence of UFOs, and his results were, well, I'll make this short. UFOs are icons of postmodern anxiety coming from the collective unconscious. UFOs are the modern day Mandala. To sum it up, perhaps you'll be able to understand what that means with the knowledge you've gained from these lessons. To illustrate how deeply Jung delved into the experiences of ancient ideology and theology, surpassing the borders of theology. In his later years, he attended Uranus, an intellectual exchange for all sorts of thinkers all across the world. He directly and continually exchanged ideas and opinions with some of the best scholars in a number of fields. Jung, associated with a variety of famed minds even outside of Uranus, the author Hesse, the physicist Pauli, and many big politicians were among his associates outside of his field. His achievements, influenced by a variety of people, have surpassed the borders of psychology and psychiatry. His work is not limited to psychiatrists, philosophers, authors, and artists as well. Find inspiration in his work. He was one of the few psychologists that actually influenced the way people think. Finally. This final lecture was a lot to swallow. Yes, I probably won't remember any of this in a week, but if anything I said interests you, I encourage you to look it up. I'm sure something deep within your conscious will change or give you the opportunity to change. Oh, and because these lessons are all my own personal opinions, I end on a disclaimer that no effects are guaranteed. Until we meet again. Na try kunde Gahinverantinen sei gesöglag Sinnes, yeah, whatever.